Right, morning, morning. Welcome all. I hope you brought your buckets. I see, Stella's already on the beach, so she's got her bucket and spade and going for it. So we're talking about bucket lists this morning, Lee, I think, are we?
Yeah, talking bucket lists, and I want to make some rules. That seems like a very unwisdom thing to do. But, I was thinking we can have bucket lists about saving the world, world peace and solving, social issues like poverty and all those things. And I absolutely believe and trust that we have hearts for those issues and that we want to address them. But and even our families, I'm sure we have wishes and desires for our families to succeed and all of those wonderful things. I would like us to be entirely based. Our bucket list must be about me, because this is your life. It's you living it in your skin. It must mean something for you, and so your bucket list must be entirely personal about you. So if you had 5 things on your bucket list about solving the world, you can share that with other people, but not today on this Wisdom's Chats. So I'll tell you 3 on my bucket list. So the first one, and I also was reflecting and realizing I'm so fortunate. There's so many things that were on my bucket list and I've been able to tick them off. I was a little 18-year-old girl that got in a plane for the first time, flew from the middle of summer into a snowstorm in Chicago, saw snow for the first time, went ice fishing, went to Disney World. Was incredibly fortunate. And that was as a Rotary Exchange student. So I was very, very grateful for, and that was the beginning of many, many other things. But the travel bug did bite at that stage, and I've done a lot of travel. I think the thing that I would like to do now, and I'm facing a lot of resistance, so I'm not quite sure I'm ever going to be able to do it. But the longest, straightest road in the world is in Australia. And I would love to do what they call the Nullabor. It's a drive from Perth in the west right through to Sydney in the east. It's a 4 or 5 day trip. And I just think road trip, miles and miles of nothing, just space going, I find that very exciting. I'd love to go with my husband and my sister and her husband. My sister and her husband live in Perth. So far, I've got a vote of 1 out of 4. So I'm not sure how that's going to work out. And then here in South Africa, we have in the northern beaches of what we call the North Coast, the North East Coast, is we have this phenomena of turtles coming to lay their eggs on the beaches, and I would love to see that. I just think that's just a natural phenomenon that seems very. I'd love to just witness that. And then the last thing, and there, as I say, I've got lots of things, but the last thing is one of the things I do to relax is to watch renovation shows. And I do not have house renovations. I do not have a design bone in my body. I don't know red pillow from a green pillow and curb appeal. I have absolutely no understanding of that. What I would love to do is to do some of the demoing that they do, the demolishing. They take these huge, big hammers and they just ram them through these wooden doors, which of course we don't have here in South Africa. All our doors walls are all, brick and so on. So I don't know, again, how possible it's going to be, but I just think that feeling of just not because I've got a lot of anger, I just think it'd be such fun. So those are my, three of my things on my bucket list. So tell us about you. What weird and wonderful and interesting and lovely things are on your bucket list?
Sure, Lee, I never realized you were such a destructive person. I really worried about that now. Stay out of Lee's way when she's cross. She might just send a wrecking ball through you. Okay, so fantastic. So Stella, you
and I'd love that too. I'd love to see that.
Yeah. Right, Stella, so you said you like home renovations as well. It sounds to me a little bit like watching paint dry, but I'm not too sure.
No, I love watching that and reality TV. Okay, so for me, the first thing that I want to talk about is a boat trip. When my daughter and her two cousins, they all three of them turned 21 within a space of 3 or 4 months. And my mother-in-law took the 3 girls and herself, and they went on a boat trip. And my daughter came back and she said, "Mom, you've got to put this on your bucket list." So I would love to go. And then the second thing is I so desire a grandchild. I cannot tell you guys. And my one wish is, and on my bucket list, is to be at the birth of my first grandchild. So I don't care if it is in South Korea. I will beg, borrow, steal money to get there, but I will be at the birth of my first grandchild. And then I haven't been able to travel a lot. I've only been to South Korea and Kenya. So one of the other countries that I would love to go and visit, and just because of the scenery, is Croatia. So those are the 3 things that I want to do. Thanks, guys.
Great, thanks, Stella. Yeah, I was starting to wonder, how personally you could actually make a grandchild happen, but then you explained what you were actually talking about. I thought that was going to be an interesting one. So, right, good. Mpulelo, let's get across to you.
Yeah, morning again. I do have a couple of things, so I'll just say them as a laundry list, probably stopping at 1 or 2. At the top of my list is skydiving. I just really want to jump out of a plane. Secondly, take a luxury train trip with my family, whether it's Rover's Rail or the Blue Train. I'd love one of those. Took a train trip when I was young. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. So would like to have that experience with my family. It's going on a cruise, definitely, but I want to go with my wife first, and then kids can come later. Walk the Great Wall of China, absolutely. Watch Broadway musical, that I'd love to do in New York. Experience zero gravity, so you can see there's something about me and jumping out of things and being suspended in the air. So yeah, experience zero gravity. See the Victoria Falls, run the Comrades. I do run a lot, but I've never done the Comrades. I don't know how you do that. Yeah, travel at least 1 country every year with my boys. I'd love them to be more exposed than I was. Fly an airplane. I'd love to have a pilot's license, even if it means I fly a small aeroplane. I've always dreamt about that. In actual fact, when I was a kid, when you'd ask me what I want to do, the first thing that came out of my mouth was to be a pilot. So I'd love to learn to fly a plane. Last but not least, see the pyramids. Yeah. And yeah, Lee, talking about getting onto a plane, the first time I got onto a plane, I was 27 years old. I promised myself that day that my kids would not wait that long to experience a flight. Fortunately, I have been able to do it for them while they were 2 and 3 years old. So yeah, that's me.
Right, Mpulelo, I see you don't have your feet firmly anchored to the ground there. You want to be up there somewhere. So yeah, that's great. Right, let's get across to Trevor.
Oh dear, because I haven't even thought about the bucket list, which is quite interesting, and it's almost satisfaction. But I'm totally satisfied that I am absolutely dissatisfied. So what do I want on my bucket list? I want an island where there is no one else, unlimited Wi-Fi connectivity, the ability to do this whenever I want to flip my laptop up. There must be a bank of laptops, satellites, dishes, and to be able to communicate with anyone at any time whenever we want to do it. What's on my bucket list? We've been fortunate enough to travel around. My family just loves travel. So I know the only place in Europe we haven't been into yet in depth is Italy, and then perhaps into the Scandinavian countries. We want to get there. But you know what, travel, most people want to do travel. So bucket list now. Hey, man, I'm just so interested in us conquering the world now off the Zoom platform that I've discovered new things. Oh, I tell you what I want to do. I want to take my blooming steel bucket and I want to hit the guy over the head that has stolen my time. Because since the beginning of lockdown, my time has completely disappeared. I want to know where it is, and I will thump that idiot over the back of the head that has stolen my time. I've got less and less time ever since we've been locked down at home. I don't know where time goes on a daily basis. I know that doesn't help Lee, but there you go.
Yeah, I'm not too sure who invented Zoom, but I think we will find his name for you so you can take your bucket and go and find him. Yeah. Right, so let's get across to Cecile. Cecile.
Hi guys. On a somber note, but it actually turned out nice. My twin sister had cancer when she was 30. So when we were 30, in those days, they didn't even call it a bucket list, just call it a to-do list. We did a list when we were 30 of all the things we wanted to do. And I can tell you, I have done everything on that bucket list, on that list that what one can possibly do that's dangerous, non-dangerous, whatever, travel. But there are a few things that I still want to add. 2 years ago, I swam. I always wanted to swim with the dolphins. And 2 years ago, we went to Mozambique and we swam with the dolphins. And we had a GoPro little camera with us and we wanted to film the whole lot. We filmed a few bits. We got into the water, we swam with the dolphins for about a minute. And then some boat came along and freaked the dolphins out, so they became aggressive, so we got out of the water. And then our GoPro got stolen before we could even download the whole trippy. So I want to do that one again. And then I love trains. So I want to do the Trans-Siberian train from Leningrad to Vladivostok, because I've done many train trips in Europe. We used to do for 20 years. We go on the train from Johannesburg to Port Elizabeth, but now that train is no more. Maybe it'll be revived one day. And then I want to do you hire like a little houseboat. It's not really a big houseboat, a boat, and you float on the canals. I think it's a little boat with an engine, and you go on the canals, and I think in the UK and sometimes in Europe as well. So that's the one thing that it's only about 4 or 6 or 8 people on that boat. And the place that I still want to travel to, because I've been to virtually every single country in Europe, I want to go to Vietnam and Cambodia. And now Scott is bragging so much about Bali that I am curious about Bali. We went to Croatia in December, but I want to go to Bali as well, but I'll go to Vietnam and Croatia first. So those are my to-do things. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Cecile. Right, Donovan, let's get across to you.
Morning, everyone. Hope my sound is okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit soft, but it's not too bad.
Top 10. Okay, I've got a top 10 list if it's fine. It's more or less in order of priority. Number 1 is Israel. I really like to visit the Holy Land. Then 2 is Egypt for the pyramids. Number 3, California. I just want to experience, you know, when they say go big or go home, I want to see how big and how large they live out there. Number 4, Germany. Number 5, the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Number 6, New Zealand. Okay, this one might surprise, it's even surprising my wife, I think. Number 7, Titanic 2, when they start, you know, taking bookings again. Number 8, Brazil. Number 9, the Panama Canal. Because of my construction background, I really want to, you know, see this for myself. You know, this construction. And number 10, India. Yeah, that's my list. Thank you. Hello.
Yeah, Edward, let's get across to you. Your mic, Edward? Edward, your microphone is muted.
There we go. Sorry, I unmuted myself and muted myself at the same time. I'm going to be controversial and say I don't like bucket lists. I think because people, there's 2 things. One, it's stuff to do before you die. That's the definition. And you don't know when you're going to die, which is the problem. And I think the other thing is that people put things on their bucket list and never do them. And it was interesting that Cecile had a to-do list, and she did her things on the to-do list. And the other reason is that, well, you don't know what you don't know. So how do you know what there is out there that you could do that you might miss? So I like to just have a policy of saying yes more. And by saying that, some guy asked me to do a race. I went to Bhutan. I'd never even heard of Bhutan before I went there. And I went and to the Tiger's Nest Temple, which is a Buddhist temple that hangs off a mountain. It's absolutely stunning. I thought one of the nicest places I've ever been to. I wouldn't have known that existed to put on my bucket list. But I do have some things. One of them is the Nullabor, but for a completely different reason. I hate golf. I think golf is the worst game ever invented. Now, on the Nullabor Highway, there's a golf course because people drive on the road, it's straight as Lee said, they fall asleep. So about every 200k, there's a hole, a golf hole, and you stop and you play that hole and then you drive on. And I thought, well, I could run it. I could run between the golf holes. So that is my big bucket list thing. I also want to go to New Zealand. I want to hike the Pacific Crest Trail, which is an off-road hiking route that goes from the Mexican border in America to the Canadian border, all off-road, amazing thing. And then the other one I want to do is in South Africa. I want to see a sardine run in Durban, because every time I've been to Durban, I've missed it. And that's my to-do list and my wish list, but also just to say yes more to things that come along, because you never know what you might find. And that's me.
Great, thanks, Edward. Kevin, let's get across to you.
Good morning, everyone. Before I start do my bucket list, I'll just try to follow up on something Filedo said about skydive. One of my chairman of my running club over here, his granddad decided to do a skydive at the age of 100, and he jumped out of the plane. And his son, grandson, and great-grandson jumped out the same plane with him, so 4 generations jumped at the same time. That'll take some beating. But so my bucket list revolves a lot around 2 things, really, around travel and around sporting events. I mentioned travel a bit yesterday, but to see certain things like the pyramids, the Great Grand Canyon, we've got the Giant's Causeway in Ireland. It's seeing different things is the main main theme there. And then in the sporting world, I'd like to attend some of the big sporting stadia with my son, such as the San Siro in Milan, perhaps the Bernabeu in Spain, stand at the side of a mountain for the Tour de France, and go to one of the one. I'm going to contradict Edward here and say go to one of the major golf tournaments in the world as well. It's very much sport orientated. But then the one other one that jumps out at me is I'd like to have a bird of prey handling experience. I just love birds of prey, so to be able to be part of a day and have them on my arm and fly some of them would be great. That's my bucket.
Great, Edward. I think you must go to Mongolia for that. Eh? Have you ever seen the Mongolian hunters that have their birds of prey on their arms when they're riding on their horses?
Well, we've got one in Hampshire, about 120 miles from here, near Andover.
No, but that's boring. You must go to out to Mongolia, and you know.
At the time we went, they actually had condors flying. They flew some condors from the horizon to the event, but that's now been banned for health and safety.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. You need somewhere a bit bigger than this little falcon.
Yeah. There's actually a place down in the Cape Coast here as well, in the Garden Route, where they've got a reserve for raptors, which is also nice. So that'd be a beautiful place to visit as well.
Yeah.
I think Mongolia is a bit more extreme though. All right, Jasper, let's get across to you.
How much time have you got? Because when it comes to travel and things still to do, and with the help of my wife, she's actually the inspiration on all of this. We absolutely love travel, and we've lost count. We were blessed that through the New Life business that we're part of, we travel on average twice a year, or at least once a year. We would have been into Prague this year with the Oberammergau passion play, and it only happens once in 10 years. So we were so sad when the thing locked down. So I don't know when we'll get that chance again. So most of my to-do list is still around travel. I've been privileged a couple of years ago when my friend turned 60. He invited his brother, and we were 3 couples, him, his brother and his wife, and ourselves, on a little yacht in the, what do you call it? Is it the sea around Croatia? But it's a beautiful stretch of coast, and you were every day on the water, and at nights you moor at another little small town, and you go into the town and you eat there and do stuff. So, and the 7 days just flew past. So that was a brilliant trip, and I would love to repeat it again on a more luxurious yacht with more friends that I can take with me. And then on cruises, we love cruises. We've done most of the cruises, but the one cruise that I would still love to do is a around the world cruise. So it's about a 3 month trip, and you start off somewhere in Europe, and you end back in Europe after about 3 months. And I think the trip is designed that wherever you want to then get off, you can get off and catch the next ride. So you can then stay in a certain place for a couple of days or a week and travel the world. So that's something, it's still a to-do list somewhere along the line. Only problem is these things cost a lot of money, and so you have to plan well. Fortunately, with internet nowadays, as long as you have internet, people don't know where you are, and it's part of my dream to almost have little messages to my team to say, having a fantastic time, wish you were here. And then also do cruises in the Asia area, Singapore, Japan. Love to go and explore Japan, and then also around Australia, New Zealand, and then still South America. So those are the fun things that we see ourselves doing until we run out of time here on Earth. For my kids, like Stella, I have grandkids from my one son, but I would love to still see my last son finding a wife and have grandkids. And it reminds me of a story of a guy He had everything in life. He had all the money in his, and the travel and the lifestyle. But none of his kids, they got married, but none of them had kids because they still wanted to delay it. And when he retired, his friends asked him, so what are you going to do in retirement? He said, I'm going to travel the world, and I love sport. Whenever the rugby team travels, I want to attend all the matches. And then I want to start having fun with my grandkids. And a couple of years later, his friend met him again. He said, so what's happening? He said, no, I love to travel. It's great. I'm going to continue traveling. The rugby, I attended every match there was. But I'm a bit bored now on the rugby side. So no, that's no longer a big passion of mine. And he said, and your grandkids, are they there? He said, no, but I think I've solved that problem too. He said, what do you mean? He said, when we had our big family dinner the other night, I opened up in prayer and I just thank God for our health and our family and for my first grandchild who will inherit all my money when I die. He said, and when I opened my eyes, there was no one around the table. So, yeah, I think on that note, I've got a lot of other to-do lists in terms of business. Would be an absolute passion of mine to achieve the Kilimanjaro in new life and be a 5 diamond, because then I know with that comes unlimited travel. Then have an international footprint for Triple C and gig, and with that combination, make sure that we have a national bank and eventually into international businesses, and through the chamber and the banks help to set up something similar to business partners, where we can co-invest in other people's business ideas and be part of the whole SME program. So I think that should keep me busy for a while.
Thanks, Jesper. Yeah, it's interesting how you can motivate people to do certain things, isn't it? So, yeah, I love that story about the grandkids. Right. Yeah. So it's interesting to hear everybody's bucket list. So mine, I think, is quite simple, and I tend to agree with Edward. I don't like bucket lists at all. So my desire, let's put it this way, is a relatively simple one, but not necessarily an easy one to achieve, and that's just simply to become a nomad. I want to become stateless. I want to become unfettered and unbound by country borders and nations, and I want to just be able to go where and when I want to, where and when I want to, and those will mostly be remote wilderness areas, far away from people, preferably, and just be able to travel. I read a beautiful story a couple of years back about a German couple, and when they retired, they took their Mercedes G-Wagon, they kitted it out for overland travel, and they spent the next 25 years just driving around the world. Picked up when they went, when they wanted to, put down when they wanted to, went where they wanted to, when they wanted to, and how they wanted to for 25 years until one of them passed away. And I mean, I can't imagine a better way to actually to spend my time. So that's me. I say relatively simple, but not necessarily easy to achieve. So Lee, I think that's it for this morning. Over to you.
Thanks everyone. It's whatever you call it, a bucket list, a to-do list. We all have these yearnings, I think, and I love what Edward said. It's about saying yes because you don't actually know what's out there, but I also think it's about dreaming and then having the possibility starts to you start to think about it, and then you start to plan about it, and then it starts to happen, and something that you didn't think ever could happen actually ends up happening. So I find that really exciting. I think for tomorrow, I'd love to pick up on this idea of Edward's yes. What have you said yes to? And that may be something that you've said yes to in the past, and it's the yes of something that you had no idea what you were getting yourself into until you were in it. And so I'd love to hear those stories. And what did you learn out of that experience? So I'd love, and I'm sure some of those yeses worked and some of those yeses didn't work. But some of your experiences of saying yes, as I say, either in the past or maybe it's something that you currently are in the middle of. You said yes to this thing, and now you're right in the middle of living this yes. And what does that mean for you? So I would love to hear those stories. Well, I think hopefully we all love to hear them. So, and learn from them. So let's look forward to, hearing those yes stories tomorrow.
Yes, Lee.
Yes, Lee.
So,
that's what I like to hear. Yes, yes, Lee.
Yes, Lee.
In fact, yes, sir, will do very well.
Right. Okay, good. All right, folks. So have a fantastic day further. Add to your bucket list. Knock a few things off your bucket list, whatever you want to do, but say yes to the day. And hopefully we'll see you in the morning. Have a good one. Cheers now.